He sees them across the terminal. Two boys, 5 years old, holding her hand. His face, his eyes, his son's. She lied, she ran, she stole 3 years he'll never get back. He built an empire on fear, but she made him feel something worse than rage: betrayal. Now the most dangerous man in the city has one mission: take back what's his. But some wars aren't won with power. Some battles break you first. The airport smelled like coffee and jet fuel. Jamin Kim didn't notice. He stood near the international arrivals gate, phone pressed to his ear, listening to his attorney finalize the acquisition of a waterfront property in Seattle, another piece of the empire. Another victory in a war that never ended. His life had become a sequence of controlled brutality, contracts signed in blood, loyalty earned through fear, and silence bought with money that could drown cities. At 29, he was untouchable. Cold, precise, unbreakable. The divorce had been finalized 8 months ago. He'd felt nothing. She had betrayed him, and he had erased her from his world with the efficiency of a surgeon removing a tumor. Yuna had been a mistake. Beautiful, reckless, unfaithful. He had loved her once, before he learned that love was just another word for weakness. Now she was gone, and he had returned to what he knew best: control. Mr. Kim, the papers are ready for your signature, his attorney said through the phone. Send them to my office, Jamin replied, his voice flat, emotionless. He ended the call. That's when he saw her. She stood 20 feet away, near the baggage claim. Her back was to him, but he recognized the curve of her shoulders, the way she moved. Slow, deliberate, like she was always carrying something too heavy to name. Yuna. His chest tightened. Then she turned, and everything stopped. She wasn't alone. 2 boys stood beside her, small hands gripping hers. They couldn't have been older than 5. Identical. Dark hair, sharp eyes. His eyes. Jamin's breath caught. The world around him, the noise, the crowd, the movement, collapsed into a single, unbearable truth. Those boys. They were his. He didn't move, couldn't. His mind fractured into 1,000 questions, each one sharper than the last. When? How? Why didn't she tell me? Yuna's gaze found his across the terminal. For a moment, she froze. Then fear flickered across her face, raw, unmistakable. She grabbed the boy's hands tighter and turned, pulling them toward the exit. Stay here, Jamin said sharply to the 2 bodyguards flanking him. He moved, fast, silent. She didn't make it 10 steps before he was in front of her. Yuna. His voice was low, controlled, but beneath it, something volcanic simmered. She stopped. The boys looked up at him, curious, unafraid. One of them tilted his head. Mommy, who's that? Jamin's throat closed. Yuna's face went pale. Jamin, I don't. His voice cut like glass. Don't say a word. Her lips trembled. He looked down at the boys. They stared back at him with the same intensity he saw in the mirror every morning. Same jawline, same unflinching gaze. His sons. How old are they? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Yuna swallowed hard. 5. 5, which meant she had been pregnant when she left. When she ran, rage, white-hot and blinding, surged through him, but he didn't move, didn't shout. He had learned long ago that the most dangerous men were the ones who stayed calm. We need to talk, he said quietly. No. Her voice broke. Please, just let us go. Let you go? He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. You think you can hide my sons from me for 5 years and then just walk away? Tears filled her eyes. You don't understand. Then make me understand. She looked at the boys, then back at him. Not here. Jaemin nodded slowly. Fine. Tomorrow. Noon. The Paramount Hotel. Room 804. Come alone. Jaemin, if you don't show up, he said, his voice dropping to something lethal, I will find you. And when I do, you won't like what happens next. He turned and walked away. Behind him, one of the boys whispered, Mommy, why are you crying? Jaemin didn't look back, but his hands were shaking. The Paramount Hotel sat in the heart of downtown Seattle, a monument to wealth and discretion. Jaemin stood by the window of room 804, watching the city below. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw them. Two boys with his face, holding the hand of a woman who had stolen the most important thing he never knew he had. Fatherhood. The word felt foreign, heavy. He had built an empire on violence and fear. He had enemies in every corner of the city. His name alone could end careers, ruin families, silence anyone who dared challenge him. But he had never been a father. And now, he had two sons who didn't even know his name. A knock on the door. Jaemin turned. Come in. The door opened. Yuna stepped inside, alone. She looked smaller than he remembered, fragile, exhausted. Her skin, a deep bronze that had once glowed in the sunlight, now seemed dull, hollowed out by years of running. She closed the door softly behind her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Jaemin broke the silence. Where are they? Safe, she said quietly, with a friend. A friend. He laughed bitterly. You mean someone who won't let me near my own sons. They're not... She stopped herself. Not what? His voice was ice. Not mine? She looked away. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Silence. Jaemin stepped closer. You left. You didn't tell me you were pregnant. You ran halfway across the world and hid my sons from me for 5 years. So tell me, Yuna, what exactly did you think would happen when I found out? Her hands trembled. I thought you'd kill me. The words hit him like a blade. Kill you? He stared at her, disbelief and fury colliding. Is that what you think of me? You're a crime lord, Jaemin. Her voice cracked. You've destroyed people for less than what I did. You cheated on me, he said coldly. I divorced you. That should have been the end of it. Should have been. She looked at him then, eyes glistening. But I knew you, Jaemin. I knew what you were capable of. And I couldn't risk. Risk what? Losing them. The room went still. Jaemin's jaw tightened. So you thought the best solution was to take them from me entirely? I thought the best solution was to protect them from the life you live. He wanted to rage, to destroy something. But instead, he sat down on the edge of the bed, his hands folded in front of him. Tell me their names, he said quietly. Yuna hesitated. Tell me. Kai and Elias. Kai, Elias. He repeated the names in his mind, tasting them, trying to make them feel real. Do they know who I am? He asked. No. Do they know they have a father? She shook her head. I told them you were gone. Gone. He looked at her, something dangerous flickering in his eyes. You told them I was dead? No, just gone. That's not better, Yuna. I know. Her voice broke. I know. Jaemin stood, pacing slowly. Here's what's going to happen, he said, his tone calm, controlled, lethal. I'm going to meet my sons. I'm going to be in their lives. And you're going to cooperate. Jaemin, I'm not asking. You can't just... I can. He turned to face her. You think I don't have the resources to take them from you? You think I can't make you disappear if I want to? Her face went white. But I won't. he continued, his voice softening just slightly. Because despite everything you think of me, I'm not a monster. Not to them. Tears streamed down her face. I want joint custody, he said. Legal and physical. I want them to know who I am. I want to be their father. And if I say no? He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. Then I'll take them anyway, and you'll never see them again. 3 days later, Jae-min stood outside a small house in the suburbs. It was modest, quiet, the kind of place where children played in the yard and neighbors waved to each other in the morning. It was everything his world was not. Yuna had agreed to let him meet Kai and Elias, but she had rules. No talk of business, no bodyguards, no fear. He had agreed, not because he had to, but because he wanted this. More than he had ever wanted anything. The door opened. Yuna stood there, her expression guarded. They're in the living room. Jaemin stepped inside. The house smelled like vanilla and fresh laundry. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Toys were scattered across the floor. And there, sitting on a blue rug, were his sons. Kai was building something with blocks, focused, determined. Elias was drawing with crayons, his tongue poking out in concentration. They didn't notice him at first. Jaemin's chest tightened. He had faced men twice his size, had stared down enemies without flinching. But standing here, looking at 2 5-year-olds who didn't know he existed, he felt terrified. Kai, Elias, Yuna said softly, someone wants to meet you. Both boys looked up. Kai tilted his head. Is that the man from the airport? Yes, Yuna said carefully. His name is Jae-min. He's your father. Silence. Elias blinked. We have a dad? Yuna's voice wavered. Yes. Kai stood up slowly, studying Jae-min with an intensity that made his heart ache. You look like us, Kai said. Jae-min knelt down, bringing himself to their level. Yeah, I do. Elias walked over, still holding his crayon. Where were you? The question was simple, but it shattered him. I didn't know about you, Jae-min said quietly. If I had, I would have been here. Kai frowned. Why didn't you know? Jae-min glanced at Yuna. She looked away. It's complicated, he said gently. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. For the next hour, he sat on the floor with them. Kai showed him the tower he'd built. Elias gave him a drawing of a dragon. They asked him questions, simple, innocent questions about where he lived, what he did, if he liked dinosaurs. He answered carefully, editing out the darkness of his world, giving them only the parts that wouldn't break them. And for the first time in years, Jae-min felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Peace. But peace never lasted. As he was leaving, Yuna followed him to the porch. Thank you, she said quietly, for being gentle with them. He nodded. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. Unknown number. He answered. Who is this? A voice, low, cold, familiar, came through the line. Congratulations, Jae-min. I heard you found your sons. His blood ran cold. How do you know that? I know everything. A pause. And if you don't step down, I'll make sure they disappear, just like their mother tried to. The line went dead. Jae-min stared at the phone. Yuna's face went pale. What's wrong? He didn't answer. Because the war he thought he left behind had just found his family. A quick announcement before we begin. Channel members get access to exclusive videos, weekly content, and early access to videos before they go live on the channel. To join, just click Join here on YouTube. And if you'd like to support the growth of the channel, the available support options are listed in the description. Let's start. The threat came from a ghost. Victor Choi, once Jaemin's mentor, his father's most trusted advisor, the man who had taught him everything about power, control, and how to turn fear into currency. Victor had disappeared 5 years ago, right after Jaemin took control of the organization. Most people assumed he was dead. Jaemin had hoped he was. But ghosts don't stay buried. Not in this world. Jaemin sat in his penthouse office, the city lights sprawling below him like a kingdom he no longer cared about. His phone lay on the desk, screen dark, but the voice from that call still echoed in his mind. Step down or they disappear. His sons, Kai and Elias, 2 boys who didn't know what their father was, who didn't know that the man who knelt on the floor and asked about dinosaurs had built an empire on broken bones and silenced voices. He had spent years becoming untouchable. Now the only thing that could destroy him was 5 years old and still learning how to tie his shoes. The door opened. Marcus stepped inside, his second in command, the only man Jaemin trusted with his life. We traced the call, Marcus said, his voice low. Burner phone, disposable. But the location pinged near the old docks. Victor, Jaemin said quietly. Marcus nodded. He's been moving quietly, building alliances. Word is, he's been waiting for the right moment to take back what he thinks is his. And now he thinks he has leverage. He does. Marcus hesitated. Boss, if he knows about the boys? Then we protect them. Jaemin's voice was steel. Whatever it takes. You know what that means. Jaemin stood, walking to the window. I know. War. Not the kind fought in shadows and back rooms, the kind that painted streets red and left bodies in its wake. But this time, it wasn't just his empire at stake. It was his family. He called Yuna. She answered on the second ring. Jaemin? We need to talk. Now. What's wrong? Not over the phone. He paused. Pack a bag. For you and the boys. You're leaving tonight. Leaving? Jaemin, what? Someone knows about them. His voice dropped. And they're going to use them to get to me. Silence. Then quietly. Who? It doesn't matter. What matters is keeping them safe. You're scaring me. Good. His tone softened, just slightly. Fear keeps you alive. I'm sending Marcus to pick you up. He'll take you somewhere secure. And you? I'm going to end this. Jaemin, trust me, Yuna, please. Another silence. Then, okay. 2 hours later, Yuna and the boys were in a safe house 30 miles outside the city. It was a small cabin, surrounded by trees, invisible from the road. Armed security, men Jaemin trusted with his life, stood watch at every entrance. Kai had asked why they were leaving. Yuna had lied. We're going on an adventure. Elias had believed her. Kai hadn't. Now, as Yuna watched her son sleep in the small bedroom, she felt the weight of every decision she'd ever made. She had run to protect them. But she had also taken away their father. And now, because of her choices, they were in danger. The door opened. Marcus stepped inside, his expression unreadable. They're secure. No one's getting through that perimeter. Thank you, Yuna said quietly. Marcus nodded, then hesitated. For what it's worth, he's different now. Who? Jaemin. Marcus looked at her. I've worked for him for 7 years. I've seen him do things that would keep you up at night. But when he talks about those boys... He trailed off. I've never seen him like that. Yuna's throat tightened. He wants custody. He wants to be their father, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Marcus's voice was firm. A man who wants custody takes them because he can. A man who wants to be a father learns their favorite color and sits on the floor playing with blocks even though his world is falling apart. Yuna looked away, tears stinging her eyes. He's going after Victor tonight, Marcus continued. And Victor's not the kind of man who goes down easy. Then why is he doing this? Because the alternative is losing them. Marcus met her gaze. And that's something he won't survive. Jae-min stood in the rain. The old dock smelled like rust and salt water. Abandoned warehouses loomed around him like tombstones. This was neutral ground, a place where deals were made and enemies became corpses. He came alone. Not because he was foolish, because Victor would know if he wasn't. Footsteps echoed across the concrete. Victor emerged from the shadows, flanked by 6 men. He looked older than Jae-min remembered, grayer, harder, worn down by years of exile. But his eyes still burned with the same ambition that had once made him dangerous. Jae-min. Victor smiled. You came. You threatened my sons. Jae-min's voice was flat. Did you really think I wouldn't? I was counting on it. Victor stopped 10 feet away. You've always been predictable, emotional. That's your weakness. And arrogance is yours. Victor laughed. You think you can kill me? Here? Now? I don't need to kill you. Jae-min stepped forward. I just need you to understand something. And what's that? If you touch my family, if you even breathe in their direction, I will burn everything you've built, every ally, every safe house, every piece of leverage you think you have. His voice dropped to something lethal. And then I'll bury you in a place so deep, no one will ever find your bones. Victor's smile faded. You can have the empire, Jae-min continued. You can take the territory, the money, the power. I don't care anymore, but my sons are off limits. You're willing to give up everything? Victor's eyes narrowed. For 2 boys you barely know? Yes. Silence. Victor studied him for a long moment. Then he laughed, cold, bitter. You really have gone soft. No. Jae-min's gaze didn't waver. I've just found something worth more than fear. Victor signaled to his men. They raised their weapons. Jae-min didn't flinch. Kill me, he said quietly, and you'll never leave this place alive. Marcus has 20 men surrounding this warehouse. You won't make it to the street. Victor hesitated. Or, Jae-min continued, you let me walk away. I step down. You take the empire, and we never see each other again. And if I don't, then we both die tonight. Jae-min's voice was calm. And my sons lose a father they just met. Is that the legacy you want? Killing a man who's already surrendered? The rain pounded against the concrete. Victor stared at him. Finally, he lowered his hand. Go. Jae-min didn't move. Your word that you'll leave them alone. You have it. Say it. Victor's jaw tightened. I won't touch your family. Jae-min nodded slowly. Then he turned and walked away. Behind him, Victor called out. You're making a mistake, Jae-min. Walking away from power, it'll destroy you. Jae-min stopped. He looked back over his shoulder. Maybe, he said quietly. But at least I'll still be human. And he disappeared into the rain. When Jae-min arrived at the safe house, it was nearly dawn. Marcus met him at the door. It's done? It's done. And Victor? He has what he wants. Marcus studied him. You really gave it all up? Yes. Do you regret it? Jae-min looked past him, toward the small bedroom where his sons slept. Ask me again in 20 years. He walked inside. Yuna was awake, sitting on the couch, her hands wrapped around a cup of cold tea. She looked up when he entered. Is it over? For now. She stood. What did you do? I stepped down. His voice was quiet. Victor has the organization. I'm out. Her eyes widened. You gave up everything? Not everything. He looked at her. I still have them. Tears filled her eyes. I need to tell them the truth, he said. Not all of it, but enough. They deserve to know who I was and who I'm trying to be. Yuna nodded slowly. Okay. Later that morning, Jamin sat with Kai and Elias on the porch. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Why did we have to leave? Kai asked. Jamin took a breath. Because I made some bad choices, a long time ago, and I needed to make sure those choices didn't hurt you. Did you fix it? Elias asked. I'm trying to. Kai looked at him, his small face serious. Are you a bad guy? The question broke him. I was, Jamin said honestly. For a long time, but I don't want to be anymore. Why not? Because of you. He looked at both of them. Because I want to be someone you're proud of. Elias reached over and took his hand. I think you're cool, he said simply. Jamin's throat closed. Kai nodded. Yeah, me too. And for the first time in his life, Jamin Kim felt something stronger than power. Hope. 3 months passed. Jamin had disappeared from the criminal underworld so completely that some believed he was dead. Others thought he'd fled the country. A few knew the truth, that he had traded an empire for 2 boys who called him Dad and still asked him to read bedtime stories. He bought a house in the suburbs, not far from Yuna's. It had a backyard, a swing set, room for the boys to run and play and be children without fear. He learned their routines, their favorite foods. The way Kai liked his sandwiches cut into triangles, and Elias refused to eat anything green. He drove them to school, helped with homework, sat through parent-teacher conferences where he was introduced as Mr. Kim, the boy's father, and felt a strange, overwhelming pride every time. This was his life now. Quiet, simple, impossible. Because men like him didn't get second chances, and the past never stayed buried. It started small. A black car parked outside the boys' school. A strange man asking questions at the local grocery store. A message left on Jamin's doorstep. Victor sends his regards. Jamin stood in his driveway, holding the note, feeling the cold weight of inevitability settle over him. Victor had lied. Or maybe he'd just changed his mind. Either way, the truce was over. That night, after the boys were asleep, Jamin met with Marcus in a diner on the edge of town. He's been making moves, Marcus said quietly. Consolidating power, eliminating rivals. Word is he's planning something big. And me? You're the loose end he can't ignore. Marcus leaned forward. You walked away, boss, but your name still carries weight. People still whisper about you. And as long as you're alive, you're a threat. I'm not a threat. I'm a father. In his world, there's no difference. Jamin stared into his coffee. What does he want? I don't know. But whatever it is, he's not going to stop until he gets it. Silence. I need you to do something for me, Jamin said finally. Anything. If something happens to me, if Victor makes his move and I don't make it out, I need you to protect them. Yuna, Kai, Elias. Get them somewhere safe, somewhere he can't reach. Marcus's jaw tightened. It won't come to that. Promise me. I promise. Jamin nodded. Good. He didn't tell Yuna, not at first. But she noticed the way he checked the locks twice before bed, the way his eyes scanned every room before he let the boys inside, the way he kept his phone close, always, like he was waiting for something terrible. One evening, after the boys were asleep, she confronted him. What's going on? Nothing. Don't lie to me, Jamin. He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the fear in her eyes. Victor's moving again, he admitted. I don't know what he's planning, but I'm ready. Ready? Her voice rose. Ready for what? To die? To let our sons grow up without a father again? I won't let that happen. You can't promise that. I can promise I'll fight. His voice was firm. For them. For you. For this life we're building. Tears streamed down her face. I can't lose you. Not now. Not when you're finally here. He crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. You won't. But even as he said it, he knew he couldn't be sure. 2 days later, the call came. Unknown number. Jaemin answered. Victor. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. Victor's voice was calm, almost friendly. I have a proposition. I'm listening. Meet me. Tomorrow night. The old shipyard. Come alone. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'll go to your son's school and introduce myself. A pause. And I don't think you want that. Jaemin's blood turned to ice. If you touch them, then meet me, and we'll talk like civilized men. The line went dead. Jaemin sat in his car outside the boys' school the next afternoon. He watched Kai and Elias play on the swings, laughing, carefree, unaware that their father was preparing to walk into a trap. Yuna stood beside him. You're really going. I have to. And if it's a trap? Then Marcus will get you out. You have the new identities, the account in Switzerland, everything you need. I don't want money, Jaemin. I want you. He looked at her. I know. She grabbed his hand. Then don't go. If I don't, he'll never stop. And I can't live like that. Neither can they. Tears filled her eyes. I just got you back. I know. His voice broke. And I'm sorry. That night, Jaemin stood in front of the mirror in his bedroom, buttoning his shirt. He looked different than he had 3 months ago. Softer, human. He thought about Kai asking him to play catch. Elias falling asleep in his arms during a movie. The way they both ran to him when he picked them up from school. He thought about the life he'd built. And the life he was about to risk losing. But there was no other choice. Not if he wanted them to be safe. Kai appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. Dad? Jaemin turned. Hey, buddy. What are you doing up? Where are you going? Just out for a little bit. Kai walked over, looking up at him with those eyes that mirrored his own. Are you coming back? The question shattered him. Jaemin knelt down, pulling his son into a tight hug. Yes. I promise. You promise? I promise. Kai pulled back, studying his face. Okay. Jaemin kissed his forehead. I love you, Kai. I love you too, Dad. And as Jaemin walked out the door, he carried those words with him like armor. The shipyard was abandoned. Rusted cranes loomed overhead like skeletal giants. The air smelled like oil and decay. Jaemin stood alone in the center of the yard, hands in his pockets, waiting. Victor appeared from the shadows, flanked by 4 men. You came, Victor said. You didn't leave me much choice. Victor smiled. True. What do you want? I want you to remember who you are. Victor stepped closer. You were the best, Jaemin. Ruthless. Fearless. You could have ruled this city for decades, but you threw it all away for what? 2 children and a woman who betrayed you? She didn't betray me. She saved them. From you. The words hit harder than any weapon. Maybe, Jaemin said quietly. But I'm not that man anymore. Then you're weak. No. Jaemin looked him in the eye. I'm human. Victor's expression hardened. Humanity is a luxury men like us can't afford. Then maybe I'm not like you anymore. That's where you're wrong. Victor signaled to his men. You'll always be like me. You just haven't realized it yet. The men moved forward, and Jaemin prepared to fight for everything he loved. The first punch came fast. Jaemin blocked it, twisting away, but another man was already on him, faster, stronger, fueled by years of loyalty to Victor. He fought back, not with the cold precision of a crime lord who calculated every move, but with the desperate fury of a father who had everything to lose. He took down the first man with a strike to the ribs, feeling the impact reverberate through his knuckles. The second one lunged, and Jae-min dodged, using his momentum to slam him into the rusted container behind them. Metal clanged. The man crumpled. But there were 4 of them, and he was alone. A fist connected with his jaw. Stars exploded across his vision. Another blow to his ribs knocked the air from his lungs. Pain, sharp, blinding, tore through his body. He stumbled back, tasting copper, vision blurring at the edges. Victor watched from a safe distance, arms crossed, smiling like a man who'd already won. "You're slower than you used to be. Softer." Jae-min spat blood onto the concrete. "Maybe, but I'm still standing." Not for long. The men closed in, circling like wolves who'd cornered wounded prey. Jae-min braced himself, fists raised, knowing he couldn't win, but refusing to go down without a fight. He thought of Kai's promise, of Elias's small hand in his, of Yuna waiting at home, praying he'd come back. He wouldn't die here. He couldn't. And then, gunfire. Not from Victor's men, from the shadows beyond the containers. Marcus emerged from behind a rusted crane, flanked by a dozen armed men. Faces Jae-min recognized, men who had once served under him, men who still believed in the man he used to be. "Drop your weapons!" Marcus's voice cut through the night like a blade. "Now!" Victor's men hesitated, looking to their boss for guidance. Marcus fired a warning shot into the air, the sound echoing across the shipyard like thunder. "I said drop them!" One by one, they lowered their guns, hands raised. Victor's face twisted with rage and disbelief. "You brought backup." "Of course I did." Jae-min straightened slowly, wiping blood from his mouth, every movement sending fresh waves of pain through his ribs. "Did you really think I'd come here alone? That I'd risk never seeing my sons again just to prove a point?" "You said..." "I lied." Jae-min stepped forward, each step deliberate. "Just like you did when you promised to leave my family alone. Just like you've done your entire life." Victor's jaw tightened, fury burning in his eyes. "So what now? You kill me? Prove you're still the monster everyone feared?" "No." Jae-min's voice was calm, steady, the voice of a man who'd already made peace with his choices. "I let you walk away, just like I did before, but this time you don't come back. Ever. You think you can just..." "I'm not asking, Victor. I'm telling." Jaemin's voice hardened. "You take your men, your territory, your empire, whatever's left of it, and you leave this city. Tonight. You disappear. You build your kingdom somewhere else, somewhere I'll never hear your name again." "And if I refuse?" Marcus stepped forward, weapon raised. "Then you don't leave at all." Jae-min raised a hand, stopping him. "If you refuse," he said quietly, "then Marcus won't show up next time with warnings. He'll show up with body bags. And every person you've ever cared about, every alliance you've built, every safe house you think is hidden, it all burns. I may have walked away from the Empire, but I still know where all the bodies are buried, literally." Silence stretched between them, thick with the weight of years and violence and choices that could never be undone. Victor stared at him, searching for the man he used to know, the protege who'd learned at his feet, who'd become more ruthless than even he had dared to be. That man was gone. "You're serious," Victor said finally. "Completely." Victor looked at Marcus, then at the armed men surrounding them, faces hard and unyielding. He had no play, no leverage, no way out that didn't end with him dead on this concrete. Finally, slowly, he nodded. "Fine. You win." I'm not trying to win, Jaemin said, his voice softening just slightly. I'm trying to survive. To build something better than what we had. There's a difference. Victor's expression flickered, something that might have been respect, or regret, or just the acknowledgement of defeat. You really believe you can outrun this life? He asked quietly. I already have. Victor shook his head. Men like us don't get happy endings, Jaemin. The past always comes back. Then I'll be ready. Jaemin met his gaze. But it won't find my sons. That's a promise. Victor studied him for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away, his men following, disappearing into the darkness beyond the shipyard like ghosts fading with the dawn. Jaemin watched until the last shadow vanished. Then his legs gave out. Marcus caught him, strong hands gripping his arms. Easy, boss. You're hurt. I'm fine. You're bleeding. A lot. I'm fine. Jaemin looked at him, vision swimming. Is the house secure? Yes. I have 3 men stationed there. Yuna and the boys are safe. They don't even know you left. Relief flooded through him, so powerful it nearly knocked him down again. Good. Then let's go home. Hospital first. Home, Marcus. You have 2 broken ribs and probably a concussion. Home. Jaemin's voice was firm. I promised my son I'd come back. I'm not breaking that promise because of a few bruises. Marcus sighed. You're impossible. I'm a father. There's a difference. When Jaemin walked through the front door, the house was dark except for a single lamp in the living room. Yuna was sitting on the couch, hands wrapped around a cold cup of tea, staring at nothing. She looked up when the door opened, and froze. Jaemin stood in the doorway, face bruised and swollen, shirt torn and stained with blood, moving like every step hurt. But he was alive. Tears spilled down her cheeks instantly. Oh my God. I'm okay, he said quietly. She crossed the room in 3 steps and threw her arms around him. He winced, ribs screaming in protest, but held her tight anyway. You're alive, she whispered against his chest. You're alive. I promised I'd come back. She pulled back, hands framing his battered face. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever make me sit here wondering if... Her voice broke. I won't have to. He cupped her face, thumbs brushing away tears. It's over. Victor's gone. He won't come back. We're safe. Are you sure? Yes? How can you be sure? Because he knows what happens if he doesn't stay gone. And for all his faults, Victor's not stupid. Jaemin leaned his forehead against hers. It's really over, Yuna. We're free. She sobbed, relief and fear and exhaustion all pouring out at once. Behind them, small footsteps padded down the hallway. Kai appeared first, followed by Elias, both rubbing their eyes, hair sticking up in different directions. Dad? Kai's voice was small, scared. You're bleeding. Jaemin pulled away from Yuna and knelt down slowly, biting back a groan as his ribs protested. It's okay, just a few scratches. Elias walked over, lower lip trembling. I don't like scratches. Me neither, buddy. Kai looked at him seriously, those sharp eyes, so much like his own, taking in every bruise, every cut. Were you protecting us? Jaemin's throat tightened. Yes. Like a superhero? Despite everything, the pain, the exhaustion, the fear that still lingered at the edges. He laughed softly. Something like that. Elias's face brightened. Cool. Can you fly? Not yet. Still working on that one. When you learn, will you teach us? Jaemin pulled them both into a gentle hug, ignoring the way his body screamed in protest. Deal. Yuna helped him to the couch, and the boys curled up on either side of him, careful of his injuries, small bodies pressed close like they were afraid he might disappear if they let go. "Tell us a story," Elias said. "I'm not sure Please?" Jamin looked down at them, at Kai's determined expression and Elias's hopeful eyes, and felt his heart swell. "Okay. Once upon a time, there was a king who ruled a dark kingdom." As he spoke, his voice low and steady, Kai and Elias slowly drifted off to sleep. And for the first time in his entire life, Jamin felt complete. 2 weeks later, Jamin stood in front of the bathroom mirror, examining the fading bruises on his face. Yellow and green now instead of purple and black. Healing. He'd told the boys he'd gotten into a car accident. They'd believed him, or at least pretended to. Kai had been watching him more carefully lately, asking questions that came a little too close to the truth. But he'd deal with that when the time came. For now, he was focused on building something new. He'd enrolled in community college the week before, business management and accounting. It felt strange sitting in a classroom with people 10 years younger, taking notes on concepts he'd once applied to criminal enterprises. But it also felt right. Like he was learning how to be human again. "Dad!" Elias's voice called from downstairs. "Breakfast is ready!" Jamin smiled and headed down. The kitchen smelled like burnt toast and too much syrup. Yuna stood at the stove, flipping pancakes with a spatula, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Kai was setting the table. Elias was pouring orange juice with intense concentration, tongue poking out. It was chaotic, imperfect, beautiful. "Morning," Jamin said. All three of them turned, and the boys' faces lit up. "We made breakfast," Elias announced proudly. "Mom helped a little." "A little?" Yuna laughed. "I made everything. You two just made a mess." "That's helping," Kai argued. Jamin sat down at the table and they ate together. Pancakes slightly burnt, orange juice spilled twice, laughter filling the small kitchen. This was his life now, normal, simple. Everything he never thought he wanted, and he loved every second of it. 3 months later, Jamin got a job, not in the criminal underworld, not in the shadows where power was currency and violence was language, at a logistics company downtown. He started in the warehouse, loading trucks, managing inventory. The work was physical, exhausting, boring in the best possible way. His co-workers didn't know who he used to be. To them, he was just Jay, a quiet guy with a strong work ethic who brought homemade lunches and never complained. He was promoted to shift supervisor within 6 weeks. "You're good at this," his manager said. "Really good. You ever think about management training?" "Maybe," Jamin replied. He went home that night and told Yuna. She cried. Not from sadness, but from pride. "Look at you," she said, smiling through tears. "Building an actual life." "We're building it together," he corrected. She kissed him. "Yeah, we are." 6 months later, Jamin stood on the sidelines of a soccer field, watching Kai and Elias run drills with their team. He'd volunteered to be assistant coach, mostly because he wanted to spend more time with the boys, but also because he'd discovered he actually enjoyed it. Teaching kids strategy, watching them improve, celebrating their victories. "Nice pass, Elias," he called out. Elias grinned and gave him a thumbs up. Kai scored a goal and looked over immediately, checking if his dad had seen. Jamin clapped, pride swelling in his chest. After practice, they stopped for ice cream, a Friday tradition. "Dad," Kai said, licking chocolate from his cone, "can I ask you something?" "Anything. Why don't you ever talk about your family, like your parents?" Jamin's chest tightened. He'd known this question would come eventually. "My parents died when I was young," he said carefully. "And after that, I didn't have much family." "Were you sad?" "Yes. Very sad." "Is that why you're so good at being a dad?" Elias asked. Because you know what it's like not to have one? The question hit him like a freight train. Maybe, Jamin said quietly. I just know that you two are the most important thing in my life, and I never want you to feel alone the way I did. Kai reached over and squeezed his hand. You're not alone anymore. No, Jamin agreed, voice thick with emotion. I'm not. 8 months later. Yuna found him sitting on the back porch one evening after the boys had gone to bed. He was staring at the sky, lost in thought. You okay? She asked, sitting beside him. Yeah, just thinking. About? How different everything is. He looked at her. A year ago, I was preparing to go to war with Victor. I thought my life was over. That I'd either die or lose everything trying to protect you. And now? Now I'm worried about Kai's math homework and whether Elias is eating enough vegetables. He laughed softly. It's strange, but it's good. Yuna leaned her head on his shoulder. Do you miss it? The power? The control? He thought about it, really thought about it. Once upon a time, he'd ruled through fear. His name alone could end careers, destroy families, silence anyone who dared challenge him. He'd had money, influence, an empire built on blood and loyalty, and he'd been empty. No, he said honestly, not even a little. Really? Really. He wrapped an arm around her. I traded fear for love, and it's the best deal I ever made. She smiled and kissed his cheek. I'm proud of you, you know. For what? For choosing us, for becoming the man I always knew you could be. His throat tightened. I'm just trying to be someone they can look up to. You already are. 10 months later, Jamin received a letter. It arrived in an unmarked envelope, no return address. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a single sentence, written in handwriting he recognized instantly. You made the right choice. V. He stared at it for a long moment. Then he walked to the fireplace and burned it, watching the paper curl and blacken, turning to ash. Yuna appeared in the doorway. What was that? The past, he said simply, saying goodbye. She understood. No more questions. Just a hand on his shoulder and a quiet presence that said, I'm here. 1 year later. Jae-min stood in the living room of their new house, bigger, brighter, filled with family photos and children's artwork taped to the walls. They'd moved 6 months ago. A fresh start. A bigger backyard for the boys. A home office for Yuna, who'd started her own consulting business. A garage where Jae-min had set up a woodworking bench, a hobby he'd discovered by accident and fallen in love with. He'd built a bookshelf for Kai's room, a toy chest for Elias. His hands, once used to break and destroy, now created. Kai was 10 now, Elias too, taller, smarter, louder. They still didn't know the full truth about who their father used to be. Maybe one day he'd tell them. But not yet. For now, they just knew him as Dad, the man who made terrible pancakes every Sunday, who helped with homework even though algebra made his brain hurt, who cheered the loudest at their soccer games and embarrassed them in front of their friends, the man who loved them unconditionally. And that was enough. That evening, they had a family game night, Monopoly. It got competitive. Kai was cutthroat. Elias kept stealing money from the bank when he thought no one was looking. Yuna bankrupted everyone. Jamin came in last place. He'd never been happier. You're terrible at this, Dad, Kai said, grinning. I've noticed. Maybe you should practice, Elias suggested seriously. Maybe I should just let you win. That's cheating, Jamin laughed. Then I guess I'm just bad at board games. After the boys went to bed, after teeth were brushed and stories were read and good nights were said, Jamin stood in their doorway, watching them sleep. Kai's arm was draped over Elias. They looked peaceful, Safe. Everything he'd fought for. Everything he'd nearly died for. Everything he'd do it all over again to protect. "I'm never letting anything hurt you," he whispered. "I promise." And this time, he knew he could keep it. Epilogue. 3 years later. Jae-min Kim stood in the backyard of their home on a Saturday afternoon, watching his sons play soccer. Kai was 13 now, quick, strategic, always 3 steps ahead of everyone else on the field. Elias was 13 too. Stronger, more creative, the one who took risks and somehow made them work. They were growing up, becoming their own people, and Jae-min was there for all of it. Every game, every parent-teacher conference, every milestone, big and small. He'd been promoted at work, regional manager now, good salary, benefits. A career path that didn't involve blood. He'd finished his degree, started teaching a weekend class at the community center, helping ex-convicts learn business skills, giving them a second chance the way life had given him one. Yuna walked outside, carrying lemonade. "You're staring again." "Can you blame me?" She smiled. "No, I do it too." They sat on the porch together, watching their sons laugh and compete and live their lives with the kind of freedom Jae-min had never known as a child. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't found us at the airport?" Yuna asked quietly. "Every day. And I'd probably be dead. Or still ruling a criminal empire with no one to come home to." He looked at her. "You saved me, Yuna. You and the boys." "We saved each other," she corrected. He took her hand, fingers interlacing. "Yeah, we did." That night, after dinner, spaghetti, which Jae-min could finally make without burning, Kai approached him. "Dad, can we talk?" "Of course. What's up?" Kai sat down, expression serious. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." Jaemin's chest tightened. "Okay. Were you a bad person before you met us?" The question hung in the air. Jae-min had known this day would come. He'd just hoped he'd have more time to prepare. "Yes," he said finally. "I was." Kai nodded slowly. "How bad?" "Bad enough that I'm not proud of the things I did. Bad enough that I hurt people. Bad enough that I nearly lost everything. But you changed. I'm trying to." "Why?" Jae-min looked at his son, at those sharp, intelligent eyes that saw too much, understood too much. "Because of you," he said honestly. "You and your brother. You gave me a reason to be better. Do you regret it? The past? Every day. But I can't change what I did. I can only try to be better now." Kai was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I think you're a good dad." Jaemin's throat closed. "I mean it," Kai continued. "You show up. You care. You teach us stuff. And even though I know you're hiding things, I also know you're doing it to protect us. So, yeah, I think you're good now." Tears pricked at Jaemin's eyes. "Thank you, Kai. But if you ever need to talk about it, the past, I'm here. We both are." "I know." Kai stood, then paused. "Also, Elias ate all the cookies and blamed the dog." "We don't have a dog." "Exactly. That's how I knew he was lying." Jae-min laughed, surprised, genuine. "Thanks for the intel." "Anytime." Later that night, Jae-min lay in bed beside Yuna, staring at the ceiling. "He knows," Yuna said quietly. "Yeah." "Are you okay with that?" "I don't know, but I'm glad he asked. And I'm glad I was honest." "You're a good father, Jae-min." "I'm trying to be." She rolled over, resting her head on his chest. "You are, and you know what?" "What?" "I love you." He froze. They'd been building a life together for 3 years, co-parenting, sharing a home, becoming something more than just the people they used to be. But she'd never said those words. Not since before the divorce. "I love you too," he whispered. She smiled against his chest. Good, because you're stuck with me. I wouldn't want it any other way. Final scene. 5 years after the airport. The house was full. Yuna's family had come for Thanksgiving. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all crowded into their home, laughter and conversation filling every room. Kai and Elias were showing their cousins how to play video games in the living room. Jae-min stood in the kitchen, helping Yuna prep dinner, peeling potatoes while she seasoned the turkey. Your mom keeps asking when we're getting married, he said quietly. I know. What do you think? He looked at her. Are you asking? Maybe. He smiled. Then yes. Yes to being asked, or yes to marrying me? Both. She laughed, bright, genuine, full of joy, and kissed him. Gross, Elias called from the living room. They're kissing again. Ignore them, Kai said. They do that all the time now. Jae-min pulled away, grinning. Should we tell them? About the engagement we just decided on? Yeah, absolutely not. Let's torture them a little longer. He laughed. I like the way you think. As the sun set, the family gathered around the table, plates piled with food, glasses raised in toasts, stories shared and memories made. Jae-min sat at the head of the table, Yuna on one side, Kai and Elias on the other, surrounded by family and love and everything he'd never dared to hope for. Dad, Elias said, what are you thankful for? Jae-min looked around the table, at the life he'd built from ashes, at the family he'd thought he'd lost forever, at the man he'd become, not perfect, but trying, always trying. This, he said simply. All of this. Kai smiled. Elias grinned. Yuna squeezed his hand, and for the first time since he was a child, Jae-min Kim felt something he'd never believed existed. Home, not a place, but a feeling. The knowledge that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Loved, safe, free. And as the night stretched on, filled with laughter and warmth and the beautiful chaos of family, Jae-min thought about the man he used to be. The crime lord, the king of a dark empire, the ghost who ruled through fear. That man had died in a shipyard a year ago. And in his place had risen something better. A father, a partner, a man who chose love over power. He'd traded an empire built on violence for a kingdom built on hope. And it was the best deal he'd ever made. The end. Before you go, quick reminder. If you want exclusive stories, members-only videos, and early access before anyone else, become a channel member by clicking Join right here on YouTube. Your support helps this channel grow and brings you deeper, more powerful stories every week. All support options are in the description. Thank you for being here. See you in the next story.